I just want to, in case you didn't know, I want to put a plug in for our book study meeting that we do, that Dr. Lye leads us in. We meet on Sundays from 11 to 12:30, and we are currently reading Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva. Yeah, it's a good group, so come visit us. And
You can get the book in the bookstore.
yeah, we have books in the bookstore. You don't have to let me know. I think on the website it says email Melissa, if you want to visit the group, but you can just drop in too.
How far along are you on the book?
We're in chapter
They're almost enlightened.
6,
Diligent.
chapter on
They're
diligence.
almost enlightened. So you might be a little behind.
Also, a quick announcement and happy birthday to Nita. Today is her birthday.
Yay for 70-year-olds.
Yeah. And also thank you to everyone who volunteered, which is most of y'all, to make this retreat happen. We couldn't have done it without you, and we're very grateful, even for random people who showed up to fix our toilet. So it's been a really, really seamless experience, and so that's thanks to all of you. Thank you. Thank you. And Sarah has something to.
One more announcement. Hinmo Droma is a teacher that's in the same lineage as Dr. Lye, and she is doing a workshop, 4-day contemplative retreat. So if you want to get more practice with meditation, this is in May. I went to her 10-day retreat last September. It's in a beautiful lake. And it is a silent retreat, so you have plenty of time to really contemplate. And she takes you through steps of meditation. It's Dr. Lye was talking about. And similar topic, finding your still center. So I have flyers out on the front desk and above the shoes if you're interested.
Thank you. I'm sending her evidence.
Thank you.
Speaking of so some of you may know, some of you may have kind of walked past and see some of the details regarding my kind of roots, spiritual roots. So I'm part of a lineage of Tibetan Buddhism called Drigong Kagyu. So Kagyu is the kind of the main family identity, so to say. And Drigong is part of that family. Originally, these differences, Drigong Kagyu, Karma Kagyu, Dalong Kagyu, originally it had more to do with, it's just a simple way of identifying the Kagyus in Little Rock, the Kagyus in Conway, the Kagyus in, Jasper. But then, of course, over time, right? Especially in a time where people didn't travel so easily, there was no Zoom, there was magic powers, but limited to a few people, apparently. There were no telephones. Then each of these areas developed unique identities, and slowly they become independent, so to say, but nonetheless kind of belonging to the same family. So there are a good number of these, what we call lineages, but it's very important to understand that these lineages did not arise, unlike Christian denominations, they did not arise out of disputes. They arose out of geographic spread. It was never, I never have a case of someone waking up one day and go, I disagree with what we believe. I think we should believe this and then start something new. I cannot think of any case of any lineage that started that way. Not to say that there were no disagreements, that would be another fantasy. But they didn't begin as disagreements. They began as geographic spread and relative isolation from one valley to another. And then things began to kind of coalesce around certain teachers. So anyway, in the Dragong Kagyu, we are relatively small, not such a widespread tradition, but nonetheless, maybe a couple of thousand big and small places spread across Tibet, Himalayas, and now different places around the world. More or less maybe 2,000. We have two heads of the order. This is following Western practice. When these traditions came into exile in India, it got fashionable to refer to these heads of lineages as His Holinesses. It's a little awkward, you know, like whose holiness? Like, I suppose when Catholics say the Pope is His Holiness, the His is actually referring not to the Pope, but to God, no? I don't know. Like English majors. Anyways, some His, right? Anyway, so then, you know, Tibetans got and borrowed this Catholic expression, His Holiness. So there are two in our order, in our lineage. One lives in Tibet, in Lhasa, in the capital city. He never left Tibet. He was beaten very badly for many years when he was put in prison. For him, it was a double whammy as far as the Chinese Communist Revolution Party ideology is concerned, because not only was he recognized as an important religious figure, but his family is also the main royal family of Tibet. Even though at that point, the royal family only had symbolic meaning, no palace, no nothing, but he carries that family line. So he was particularly targeted by the re-education program. But he is alive, he is healthy, he is 83 or 4 now in Lhasa. The other one, who is one of my main teachers, escaped Tibet in the late 70s. Yeah, one day while working in the farm that he was sent to work at, he actually was more fortunate than the other one, because he was adopted by the then regent of the lineage, who worked for the Chinese government. As part, the Chinese government set up a Department of Religion. I mean, that's the short name. The longer name is the Department of watching all these religious people so that they don't do anything bad. So they had people working for that department, and the then regent adopted His Holiness Chesang Rinpoche. So he was protected from physical torture. He went to school and everything. But then when the Cultural Revolution started, then he also got sent out to work at farms. And it was during that time that he decided to escape. So then he trekked over the Himalaya alone, somehow made it. A really good biography of his called From the Heart of Tibet. If you're looking for something to read this summer, I can guarantee you it's actually a very interesting read. Because unlike the typical biographies of like someone like him, you know, unlike the typical biographies, which is usually just filled with chapter after chapter of, and then he received this transmission, and then he went into retreat for 3 months doing this practice, and then he gave this practice to so and so, and then he went to the next place, and then he received this practice, and then he went into retreat, and 200 pages later, now he lives in ... and continues to do this. Not at all in this biography. For example, he was inspired to go see Chairman Mao. Him and a group of his friends, they traveled and they got money from the authorities to go to Beijing. And so they went on road trekking and hitchhiking. But by the time they got to Chengdu, which is the southwestern capital of China, the chaos of Cultural Revolution was unimaginable. And they felt very lost and betrayed. Because the Cultural Revolution, as articulated as a political speech, was very hopeful. Because it was talking about overthrowing the chokehold that aristocracy and religion had on everything. So any young person with a conscience would sign on to that project, except that the way it played out wasn't exactly that. So anyway, why am I talking about all this? Just to say that I'm a little distracted because this is the weekend that this head, the one who escaped, tomorrow is his 80th birthday. So he has chosen, and now it's already tomorrow in Asia. He is entering into extended retreat for the next 3.5 years. He had done that in his 20s once. And then since then, he has been working very hard, reestablishing the lineage in exile. And now he is saying, I've done enough. You guys need to fend for yourselves. I'm going into retreat with 7 other people that I'm going to supervise. And I'm not available for the next 3.5 years. This morning, last night when we were having dinner, he called and I missed his call. But he left some messages. So then I left some messages this morning. And then right before I got here, he sent a thumbs up to my messages. And then his secretary, like almost like 30 seconds later, sent to me, WhatsApp deleted. They have deleted his WhatsApp from his phone. Yeah, so no more communication for the next 3.5 years. I'm fortunate enough to be one of the close assistants. And that's why I have his WhatsApp. So it's 3.5 years. And he would be 84 or so when he comes out. Yeah. And he So we have to issue or we have to post different things that he arranged. So I was trying to get the timing right. I was like, wait, 6 p.m. You mean here or where? And sometimes it's like 6 p.m. Bhutan time, and sometimes it's like 6 p.m. Taiwan time. I was like, wait, what's the difference between Bhutan time and Taiwan time? And so that's part of my job when I say I'm one of his assistants, is taking care of some of these public communication. And he prepared a video, if you're interested, in 3 parts. So that's the next thing I have to post at 7 a.m. tomorrow, Asheville time. Yes. It's the first part of a 3-part interview that he did in Taiwan, basically explaining why, what is it, it's very nicely done. So the first part will be released tomorrow, and then the next part the following Monday and the following Monday. And it's often people call it the 3 months, 3 days. According to His Holiness, that's a little mistaken. If you want to be literal, it's 3 years and 45 days. Yeah, and in the interview, he gives an explanation why it's 3 years and 45 days. It's based on the Kalachakra Tantra. And according to the Kalachakra Tantra, in a full 24-hour day, there are, in theory, 21,000 breaths. Yeah. For, generally speaking, if not chased by a lion, 21,000 breaths or something like that. And out of these 21,000 breaths, and breath in tantric physiology is tied to thoughts. So often it's hyphenated. Wind is breath, wind minds. It says, where the mind goes, wind gathers. And wind is more like energy. Breath, energy, qi. In Chinese, qi or ki, in Japanese. So where the mind goes, life energies go there. Likewise, if your life energies circulate unevenly and get stuck somewhere, then the mind also gets stuck in a certain mental emotional state. So there's a close connection between this life energy and various types of minds. Okay, so that's the background. So 21,000 breaths. Out of the 21,000, I don't remember, but a certain percentage are called pure winds, pure energy. What it means there is that in other contexts, they explain it this way. The time it takes for a strong person to snap his or her fingers, 60 moments of mind has occurred. That is how subtle mind is. So this is supposed to be based on Buddha's direct experience of how the mind works. But for us, it's so coarse, we can only think of our thoughts as, oh, it was 1 second. And I said, no. which is 1 second. Yeah, I think the time it takes to snap a finger, you could say it's a second. It says a strong person, not a weak person. So in 1 second, it says 60 moments of mind has occurred. Then in each of these moments of mind, the first 60th, 1/60th part of that moment, it's a unstained mind, which in another context is the basic goodness that we were talking about. But in that first moment of mind, it's unstained. Unstained by what? Unstained by a bifurcation into subject and object. But in the second moment of that mind, then the bifurcation into subject object, into samsara and nirvana kicks in. So that the other 59 moments of that mind, which is 1/60th of this, is contaminated by confusion. Okay, now back to 21,000. So if you, and the Kala Chakra says, if we give everyone an assigned number of years of 100 years of being alive, even now, plus minus 100 years, then the total amount of pure moments total 3 years and 45 days. And that's why these retreats should be 3 years and 45 days. As a kind of, sympathetic magic, I think anthropologists would call that. Like you trying to arrange things to optimally so that your 3 years and 45 days will all be, focused and pure, not stained by confusion. And so your 3 years and 45 days becomes a potent time for real transformation to happen. And so it's 3 years and 45 days. So for many of us connected to him, this is also the beginning of our retreat, so to say, for 3 years and 45 days. We believe that because of, depending on how strong we feel the connection, the fact that he is in retreat has implications on those of us connected to him. And likewise, those of us connected to him, what we do will have impact on his 3 years and 45 days. So we feel like we are also entering into an interesting 3 years and 45 days. It's said that when Siddhartha left the palace and went out to the wilderness for 6 years, the wife that he left behind, Yashodhara, would do exactly what they were reporting back to her that Siddhartha was doing. So if Siddhartha, cut his hair, she got wind of that, she cut her hair. Siddhartha changed out her royal garbs for plain, and she changed. And everything that she heard that he was doing, she did, he did, she did. Because the connection was so strong. Until he got enlightened, then he came back to help her achieve enlightenment. So there's that synchronicity when you're closely connected. So it's a sort of a period for us, these 3 years and 45 days. I was slightly annoyed that I got busyness put on my plate before he went into retreat. And not recognizing, I would say now, the real meaning of the busyness. I saw it as the opposite of, what he's doing. And so truthfully, I got a little annoyed. But then I recognize the significance of the busyness that he gave me right before he entered retreat. And then, oh, Zach heard. I was listening to the message that was left last night. I didn't listen immediately last night. I waited until this morning. He added another busyness on his way in. Huh? It's okay. It's okay. Now I have a different attitude to what it's all about. Yes. It may not play out to be so busy. This last thing that he. Oh, by the way. Milarepa says, the yogi that stays in the mountains and the patrons in the valley share in the common karma. This, great saint of Tibetan Buddhism, Milarepa, who lived most of his life in the mountains and emphasized a lot the importance and necessity for serious practitioners to stay in the wilderness, in the solitude. So that was my plan. I was building a forest monastery. And now, not so fast. But Milarepa said, and he emphasized strongly the need to stay in solitude, to stay in the wilderness. But nonetheless, he said, on one occasion, he said, the yogi, the meditator that live in the mountains and the patrons in the valley supporting the yogi share in a similar karma, in this kind of same web of cause and effects. He didn't necessarily say, like good. I think he's saying, and now you have to decide, are you going to make it good or not? And everyone involved, are you going to make it good web of cause and effect, or right, a bad web of cause and effect? And cause and effect is how suffering and happiness turns up. Happiness and suffering don't turn up haphazardly without rhyme or reason. It's the interdependence of causes and conditions giving rise to results. And when the results manifest, we find ourselves in a position that is predisposed to either more happiness or more suffering. Predisposed. There's still a choice, of course, but it predisposes. So then if you're creating more skillful causes that meets concordant conditions, then it ripens as quote-unquote happiness. But when this happiness ripens, we all have seen in our lives how if we're not careful, even the happiness that has ripened, we can turn, right? We can create causes of suffering. And this is especially true if it is suffering that ripens. especially true if it is suffering that ripens, then suffering would create more suffering. Uncontrollably, it seems, because it and why does it seem, right, that happiness is more fragile than suffering? I think because there's more graspings involved with happiness. It's not that happiness is objectively more fragile than suffering. And I think it's because happiness more easily gives rise to graspings. And so, because of that, it becomes more fragile. You can, ironically, because you grasp at it, then it disappears a lot easier. It's more fragile. It can fall apart more easily. You can lose it more easily. Whereas suffering, which technically you don't grasp, although it's grasping that gives rise to suffering. But suffering because you don't grasp, when it expires, it have residual power to give rise. So it has staying power because you don't grasp. So if you can somehow short circuit the system, if you can somehow kind of short circuit, replace the system, then we may start feeling that, suffering is fragile, whereas happiness is abiding. Here and there are passages that point to how the minute, the instance you have even the slightest suspicion that experiences, phenomena aren't actually as solid as they appear to be, then they say, samsara has been compromised. And this house will collapse. You have already kind of compromised the foundations of confused existence, and it will collapse in a good way. This house, this mansion of fantasies will collapse. So going back to the Lojong instructions that I was sharing before our lunch break, remember how the first line, right, is to regard phenomena, to regard happenings. What are happenings? Everything is just a happening. And to call it phenomena or to call it happening, it's also to point out that what we habitually think of as structure is actually just process. A simplified version of process theology. That we mistake things to be structures when in fact they are just processes. So when we begin to see the process nature of everything that turns up, things that we habitually label as desirable and undesirable and including I don't really care. Buddha says most of our, not most, all of our experiences fall into these three categories: painful, pleasurable, neutral. That which is painful, we don't like. That which is pleasurable, we like. That which is neutral, don't care. So when what we habitually label into these three, in fact, all these happenings, all these phenomena, you should relate to them, you should regard them to be like the things that turn up in a dream. And so that's a rich exercise. Because things that turn up in a dream, sometimes when you know it's a dream, you can actually even, not that the instructions actually encourage this, but if we, again, tease out the implications of this, we have all been in the midst of dreams and having a recognition, this is a dream. And sometimes we're able to kind of impartially sit back and watch it all play out. At other times, even though we know it's a dream, we are like panting and running and wanting it to go away. And we're like, why would this dream not go away? Right? It's really strange. Like we know it's a dream. We know that we cannot be harmed. But nonetheless, we have all these reactions to it. And so when it says, regard all things as a dream, not that it's asking you to actively like there's a form of therapy these days that's called like to act out. I don't know what fancy term they have for it. Like a, act out, your dream. And anyway, right? And it's saying, so when it says that all experiences, you should regard all experiences like they are dreamlike, like they are a dream, it's saying that, however, right, whether you have enough control to just be a witness to all the fears and hopes that is happening in this dream, because it's a dream and that it has no real consequence. So you just let it be and you watch the display, or you are chased around in the dream and you are actually, enjoying, right, the adrenaline, the excitement, the whatever. Sometimes you even wake up and go, no, I want to go back. Certainly I've done that, like go back and, try to play out that dream, right? But all three, let's say three or more reactions to it, wanting to run away from it, wanting to continue it in the direction that you think would be really fun, and objectively just witnessing it. Basically, when you wake up, it's not a big deal. There is some residual stuff when you wake up, but you don't cry for days, or at least you should not. So in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, in those verses there, it says, for all the sufferings that you experience in this world, think of them as similar to losing a child in a dream. I think that instruction is deeper than it sounds. On the surface, it sounds like I think, and the way it's often taught, I feel, sometimes seems to be suggesting that we should be emotionally disconnected. That like, it doesn't really matter. But I would submit that it's not necessarily saying that. Losing a child in the dream is still losing a child at some level. And you could grieve. And moments after you wake up, you may still carry some of that grief, some of that trauma. But ultimately, it doesn't leave a scar. And in fact, it may even make you, right, more present for your actual child who is there. So there's some transformative power even in believing in the dream to some degree. But the bottom line is, it doesn't leave permanent scars. And you should not let the experiences that turn up, not let them affect you as if you were a zombie or a stone, and you have this emotional flatness to everything that occurs. But like a dream, losing a child, you cry, yes, but it's not with scars. In the same 37 Bodhisattva practice verse, it says, and as for all the happiness and joys that you experience in your life, relate to them as you would relate to beautiful rainbows. Again, here, right? It didn't say, pretend they're not there, but rainbows, Hot summer day. You all see rainbows here, right? Yeah, it's always very exciting. And now, of course, it's always, driving hazard because you try to pull out your phone. Post it on Facebook to be the first in Arkansas to post it on Facebook, And we all enjoy seeing it, we get a little giddy. But after it's gone, you don't have scars, that the rainbow is gone, because you have understanding about the temporal nature of rainbows. So all the joys, all the happiness, you savor the rainbows. You tell the world you saw a rainbow or two or three. And then you don't get stuck. You don't leave. You don't let the rainbows leave behind tattoos, scars from your suffering, tattoos from your celebration, So that pertains to practice of regarding all experiences as dreams. In the context of a formal session of meditation, where you're anchoring mostly your attention on the 21 counts of breath, and when a certain thought, when you recognize that a thought other than focus on your 21 breath, an emotion beyond focusing on 21 breath, when you notice that, yes, at the beginning, you are doing a kind of labeling by saying, that's like a dream. Off cushion, reading on a regular basis, kind of reasonings of how things are like a dream helps. It helps because it provides some material for when you're doing formal meditation. But during the formal meditation, don't rehearse the book, kind of chapter and verse. Don't do that. Too much discursive thoughts. Just lightly label it dreamlike, 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 dreamlike. Then when you're reading Buddhist texts about the dreamlike nature of phenomena, yes, you can think, you can consider, and often these commentaries will give you many, many examples. This angle, this angle, this angle, this angle. While you're reading, it's good to engage all of that because they provide content without words necessarily, because it's evoking a certain emotional response to understanding that things are dreamlike. And during meditation, what you're doing is you are cultivating that emotional response in the form of it's like a dream. Yeah.
No, I mean, more like the recollection is a dream.
Uh-huh.
Rather than the phenomena of experience itself. Even though maybe technically they still live through the phenomena of, say, losing your body,
Yes.
but then the recollection,
Yes.
however soon that could be or far away,
Yes.
is very much.
Yes.
And
This is on and off cushion. Yeah, on cushion, you label. Yeah. And then the effects of labeling is supposed to turn up off cushion.
no, that's practice.
Yeah. So it says, regard all phenomena as dreams. It doesn't say all phenomena are like dreams. There's an active verb here, to regard, to consider, to recollect. Various verbs that could be substituted, leading to the same meaning.
That strategy in argument with someone.
Then, as I said at the end of last session, the next line has to do with, so the first line has to do with the objective end of experience. Make sense? Yeah, you're looking at what your heart, your mind is experiencing and saying, regard them to be like dreams. So that is what I would call the objective end of experience. So with every experience, there is the objective end of that experience, and then there is the subjective end, the subject end. Now, the subject. So for the subject, it says examine or analyze the nature of birthless awareness, birthless knowing. And this is one of the qualities of the mind, poetically called luminous, clear light. And this is the power to know, the ability to know. And here, this knowing or this awareness is qualified as birthless.
That awareness still has a cause, correct? Because you say that, I hear you, that sounds similar to, I don't know, like if I conscious,
That's one kind of awareness.
like a causeless consciousness that I don't know, having a hard time explaining, but that isn't dreamlike in the way that you're describing, you know?
It is, according to this.
Sure. I'm saying that, what's the distinction then between, you know, non-Buddhist schools, which.
Oh, I don't know. You have to ask your philosophy professor. But the qualifier here is birthless. Again, Buddhist philosophers have spent a lot of time persuading us why it's reasonable to say awareness is birthless. At least right now, I prefer the Zen approach to this, which is let it be a paradox. Don't settle into it's this or that. That birthless awareness is communicating a certain paradox. Awareness is present, but it's birth without birth. So what does it mean? It seems to suggest that it's there, but it's not there in the way that we think it's there. So this mysterious, mystical qualifier, birthless, or unarisen, or unborn awareness, various translations like that, unborn. I used to like unborn until the politics of choice and all that turned that word into a different meaning, you know. There's a Catholic church in Nashville with a statue of Jesus like this. And then at the base it says, for the unborn. I'm like, ooh. So they're talking about something else. I was like, oh, really? I was like, either way, win-win. They're happy, I'm happy. Yes.
I feel like I get a sense when I think of that question now, or I hear that phrase, unborn awareness, and there's a kind of immediate understanding of it that lasts until I try to understand why.
Yeah. So keep it fresh. Don't spoil it. Yeah. Of course, it takes a lot of practice of smelling the stink before you stop spoiling it. The unborn stench. It's starting to stink. Leave it alone. No, I really feel that, you know, like I could, if I pull up the commentaries, they will go pages and pages of how it's birthless. But I think it's just feeding more mental blah, blah, blah. See, the original audience are not so heady people. We are overeducated. We have read too many books. So we try to think our way through and think our way out of suffering. That's hopeless. I think I will offer this as, rather than try to read until you understand, let this paradox keep you honest in this examination. Awareness connotes presence. Unborn connotes absence. What is simultaneously present and absent? Don't let logic answer that question. And that is what you are examining. Examine the nature of this thing, this mind that is simultaneously present and absent. If you say you don't understand, very good. If you say you understand, I don't believe you. That applies to me as well, okay? It's not like everyone is in on the joke except for you. Yeah, no. I think that's the power of this line.
So all we're left with is it's better to just simply
Yeah. Yes, or just stay in this razor's edge, you know? Lean one side, you'll get cut. Lean the other side, you'll get cut. Just stay on this razor's edge, you know? Ajahn Chah. Just to show, not that, it's like, why are you always talking about him? Just to show that this is across traditions, Buddhist traditions. Yeah. So Ajahn Chah was in a coma for 10 years, I think. Yeah. For 10 years, I think, he was in a coma. So his faithful disciples took care of and before those 10 years, I think maybe it was 10 years. Here, I'll read this. One of Ajahn Sumedho, his main Western disciple, American. Now Ajahn Sumedho just celebrated his 92nd birthday. So anyway, here it says, during the summer of 1981, and this was like a few months before he fell ill and was in a vegetative state for 10 years. Right before that, it says that in the summer of 1981, Ajahn Chah sent this message to Ajahn Sumedho. So he dictated this to another, Western student and said, send this to Sumedho, who at that point he sent to England to establish a monastic community there. And this is what he said. He says, well, Ajahn Sumedho, now this is the preface from the fellow monk who sent this note. Well, Ajahn Sumedho, you're not going to believe this, but Luang Por, like the old master, Luang Por decided he wanted to write you a letter, so he asked me to take his dictation. And the message was very brief, and here it goes. Whenever you have feelings of love or hate for anything whatsoever, whoever, whatever, wherever, whenever you have feelings of love or hate for anything whatsoever, these will be your aids and partners in building parami. Parami is Pali for the paramitas, like the perfections. But it's a more general, the way they use it in Thailand, it's less specific, like the 6 paramitas. It's more talking about building up spiritual strength. Yeah, that inner resolve I was talking about. Like, so whenever love or hate turn up, these will be your aids and partners in building parami. The Buddha Dharma, so this is not to be found in moving forwards, nor in moving backwards, nor in standing still. This Sumedho is your place of non-abiding. Very unusual. Ajahn Chah doesn't usually talk in such abstract terms. I say not moving forwards, meaning running for, if it's love. Not moving backwards, meaning running away when it's hate. And also not staying still. What is that place? Well, whatever that place is where you should be non-abiding. Our line is a lot simpler in a way, right? Unborn awareness, unborn knowing. What is simultaneously present and absent? What is simultaneously not past, present, or future? Examine this nature. So one way, right? You're like, can you give me a little more? Can I? I don't know. I mean, not that I have a secret that I can't give you, but can words really give you a little bit more? I will attempt. With a big caveat, like it might be completely useless. Not only useless, it might lead you to wrong conclusion. Yeah. So that's the warning label. A little bit more? A little bit more would be whatever you can come up with, whatever concepts and words and even feelings that you can grab, to say, this is me, misses the point. It's not saying there's no you, but it's saying whatever it is that you can grab to identify as you, as I, is not it. It's not reliable. Because everything that we can grab is necessarily compounded. That which is compounded is unreliable. It's not it. Does it mean that we then lapse into a blurry, no, it's like cutting edge, razor blade edge. It's the sword of Manjushri. By the way, most paintings of Manjushri, he's holding a butter knife, as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, just some random pet peeves of mine. I once told this Tanka painter, like, can you all stop painting Manjushris with butter knives? I mean, really, look at all the paintings of Manjushri. The people who have no idea what swords, dimensions of swords should be. So it's just about this long. And they hold it above. And it's like, why is he holding a butter knife? Oh, letter opener, No, if it is a sword, it should go until there. Not that I've actually held a sword before, but one could imagine, right? I mean, you watch enough Lord of the Rings. Oh, what, Game of Thrones? So make sure your Manjushri is holding a sword of wisdom and not a butter knife. Kind of fuzzy. Oh, it's everything. One with everything. That's the butter knife version. Butter knives can hardly cut butter. Yeah, this line, like examine the nature of birthless awareness. So don't dislike too much. There's a saying in the Tibetan scholastic system, don't under investigate and over decide. So don't. And yes, I think it sounds all so nice, so pretty. But as especially at the beginning, as a lived experience, it's a little unnerving. Because it leaves you in this place where the security that you are familiar with, even if it is false, becomes unavailable. So for a while, it can be a little, and that's why, again, if we are talking about spiritual athletes, then they need proper supervision. Various spiritual traditions talk about these types of struggles, right? In the Catholic tradition, with the dark night of the soul. And in that tradition, you struggle with God and God's existence. Which people naively thought, oh, Mother Teresa stopped believing in God because she expressed doubts. No, it's a mode of Catholic spirituality. It's the dark night of the soul that she was going through. Yeah, and we fail to appreciate things like that when we think, spirituality is all just unicorns and rainbows and, nice saunas and steam saunas and aromatherapy. So it can be unsettling. In fact, when the Zen tradition, the Chan tradition, especially in Rinzai Zen, talks about this struggle, it's a life and death. They call it that. It's a life and death struggle. That if everything hinges on this, if there's anything that matters in the world, this is it. What is this? Unborn awareness. What is this non-abiding place that you should rely on? Where you don't move forwards, you don't move backwards, you don't stand still. A good, maybe, I don't know, movie night movie for EBS? Now that I'm looking at that wall, you should have a big TV there. It's perfect wall for that. Yeah, and we'll watch a movie. That's the retreat, watching movies.
For you about to recommend?
Yeah, I always get the title wrong. But it's basically, the title is basically a line from a Zen koan, which is, why did Bodhidharma leave for the east, or why did Bodhidharma come from the west? It's one of those. It's a Korean movie, came out maybe 20 years ago. I watched it in a theater in London. The first time I watched it, I thought it was a complete waste of my time. The second time I watched it, I got hooked. Now I'm going everywhere telling people to watch it. Yeah. Yes. Drink some coffee before.
Twice.
You have to watch it twice before you get hooked. Yeah. No. You are way smarter people. I think the first time you watch it, you'll get hooked. But it is about it's about a young man who has gone on a quest for this unborn awareness, so to say. Then he goes up into a mountain to apprentice with an old monk. And mysteriously, the old monk has a little boy that he is like taking care of. We don't really know where the boy comes from. And so there's also a lot of symbolism going on. Yeah? At some point, you're like, wait, is this all just one person? Who knows? It's in that style. Yeah, it's very confusing if you're actively looking to make like logical, right? It's that kind of movie. Yeah. But it's really good. Long and slow. But the videography, the cinematography is just exquisite. These slow pans, panning across and up in the mountains in Korea. And the producer is Catholic. But she, I think, got it. Understands Zen.
It's why has Bodhidharma
Yeah.
left for the East?
Yes. Why has Bodhidharma left for the East? Yeah. You have to watch it on big screen because, like I said, it's such a striking. Yeah, it's really good. And it's the question of, what is this? What is this birthless awareness? Then the third line says, let even the antidote be freed in its own place. It's actually a very advanced point when you get to this point. So basically it's saying even the method that you use to do the first two, now leave it alone. Followed by the fourth line. And these two are closely related. The essence of the path is settling in the alaya state. The alaya is the alaya, depending on context, means different things. Sometimes it means like the karmic bank in which all your experiences come from. And in that sense, it's something, I wouldn't say undesirable, but it is sort of like where all the things that you do, they incubate there until the results come. But in this case, alaya is not that. In this case, alaya means the ground of your being. Now, if you were not careful, then you would relate to this like a soul. But if you have done enough of second line, then you are protected from thinking this alaya is some kind of soul, some kind of you, yeah? But nonetheless, this fourth line is very profound, and it's related to Mahamudra or Dzogchen practice in the Tibetan tradition, which is resting in that nature. Yeah, it says the essence, like meaning like the first three is basically to lead you to this recognition, and then all you do from that point on is to habituate this nature. Instead of thinking, maybe I should do this to improve this, maybe I should do that to improve that. No, just the essence of the path is to settle, to settle and to settle and to settle into this ground, this alaya, sometimes called ground consciousness, alaya vijnana, into the she in Tibet. This is just to give you an idea of what's available in the tradition. Just so weekend like this, it's just to perk some interest, plant some seeds. Then you need to do the farming yourself. Then I said, right, this section has 5 lines. 4 of them is part of the formal meditation. The 5th line is when you get off the cushion. And when you get off the cushion, what should you do? In between sessions, that's the getting off the cushions. In between sessions, be a child of magical illusion. Sometimes actually more literally translated as be a master conjurer. There's actually 2 wordings depending on the different edition of this root text. But both connotes the same, which is when off cushion, and this goes back to regard all experiences as like a dream. Now, try to keep this kind of understanding that this is all like a magician's illusion. All of this is like a magician's illusion. Now, you may say, oh, how is that possible? Well, don't just ask how is that possible. Do it. How do you do it? Maybe not the day that you have to work. Not that it's not possible, it's a little bit more challenging. But a day that you can put aside and say, okay, I don't have to work today. I don't have to operate any, heavy machinery today. And then you say, but I am going to, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to do this exercise to view everything like I'm watching a magic show. Everything. Try that. Maybe a whole day is a tall order at the beginning. And so you just say, the first 2 hours, I'm going to very intentionally see everything like it's a magical illusion. And see what happens. This exercise works better for people with a rich fantasy life. Doesn't work very well for me. Yes.
Are we a character in the illusion? Are we?
Yeah, good question. Why don't you start with you are real and nothing else is? Start like that. Might be hard to work on both ends of the experience, the objective end and the subjective end. So you work with the objective end, but yes, you are supposed to. If you work on the objective end that way, it will seep into the subjective end. But here it says, so it depends, when it's phrased as be the master conjurer, you're a little bit more like real. But be like a child of illusion, you are less real. Another recommendation of how to do this is when you go to sleep tonight, you say, you make this decision, the resolve. You say, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to pretend that I have entered a dream. I have entered a dream. Yeah, the moment you become aware from last night's sleep, you want to, and yes, you're using your imagination. You want to say, I just fell asleep and this is a dream. And then at the end of that day, when you go to sleep, you're like, okay, I'm going to wake up soon. Reverse. And then they say, see what happens. Again, not when you have to handle heavy machinery, not when you have to pick up kids from school or grandkids from school. When you can afford to mess up a little, choose those days, In the section on relative bodhicitta training, I said there are also 5 one-liners. And I don't know if I said 3 and 2 or 2 or 3, but anyway, it's 2 and 3. Yeah. 2 lines given for formal training, and then 3 lines given as like post meditation axioms to kind of guide your off cushion experience training. The 2 lines for formal meditation is the basis for all the different Tonglen practices that you may have come across, taught by different teachers with different variations. But they all derive from these 2 lines. And when you actually look at these 2 lines more closely, I think you can see that the Tonglen practices that, have been popularized interpretations of these two. So anyway, the first one says, train in taking and sending alternately. Okay? Train in taking and sending alternately. Then the next line says, mount these two on your breath. So here it's saying, at first, just without using visualization or practice or anything like that, train in taking and sending alternately. So again, in the context of a formal session of meditation, you again begin by the preliminaries, resharpening, recommitting to the determination to be free, right? The preliminaries of that sort, such as contemplating the four thoughts that turn the mind, that reverse your mind from distractions, followed by, making offerings in your deity house. We talked about what that could mean, how you could translate that to your context, to what helps you to get to that mindset, to let devotion, right? And devotion here, by the way, doesn't need to mean some kind of devotion to some person, some figure, but it's a quality of a warm and moist heart that is open to something bigger than yourself. Right? Devotion, right? So how do you express that devotion? Traditionally, we make offerings, beautiful flowers, fresh water, brilliant lamps, pleasing scent, and so on and so forth. And then do the meditation, then settle the body and mind, and do the 21 counts. Then again, you having the 21 counts be your anchoring in practice, just as then with the ultimate training of regard all phenomena as like dreams, which is when you notice instead of the breath, you are thinking something else, you are feeling something else, you kind of mentally at first label it like a dream, and then leave it alone. Leave it alone means it may stop becoming an active object in your awareness, or it may not. In either case, don't further make it a problem. Just leave it alone, and then it will run out of its energy and it'll go away. Then go back to breath, go back to breath. Some other thought comes in, and then sometimes you'll find that you have gone down a rabbit hole with it. Even the whole process of going down the rabbit hole, coming back up the rabbit hole, ending up in some other rabbit hole, all of that, right? Once you notice that that has occurred for the last 15 minutes, and you're like, that's a dream, then let it drop. In this case, train in taking and sending alternately. So then now 21, right? 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. So you're counting. And when the mind moves, wants to, right? When you catch your mind going somewhere else, that going, right? That distraction, you think, let this distraction and the distractions that all beings face, let it all just ripen on me. Let it all just be kind of put it all on me. And if your mind is staying focused, present, and you notice that. So there's two things here, right? The mind is doing these things, one or the other. That's one. But there's another layer of, are you noticing or not? Right? And this is applied to when you notice. So when you notice that the mind has gone away or stray somewhere, or even has gotten angry, has gotten agitated, has gotten bored, right? Every time that comes up, you think, by this experience of being distracted, being bored, being annoyed, fallen asleep, may such situation for others only occur to me. So the undesirables. It's not like you are fine and you're thinking, let me go make some undesirables. We're not saying that. We're saying when they turn up, you don't have a choice already. Then don't fight it, don't feed it, and don't blame yourself. Don't chastise yourself and say, oh, bad, but rather turn it into a place to practice relative bodhicitta, which is to say, I'm willing to suffer on your behalf. I'm willing. Again, objectively, can you suffer on behalf? No. But I'm willing. You're training the willingness. Then if you notice that, oh, it's actually a desirable, the mind is steady, right? And in that moment, you also take that and say, as for this good, I offer it to others. So that's the train in taking and sending alternately. Then the next line says, mount these two on your breath. This is the more commonly taught Donglen. And what are these two? These two are the taking and the giving. The first line also is saying it need not be this rhythm of taking, giving, giving. It's saying whatever turns up, something desirable turns up, you give it away. Something undesirable turns up, don't resent, accept it on behalf of others. So at first it is not so planned or controlled. But when you get good and familiar with having developed this generosity of willing to give away good experiences and bravery that arises from compassion and love, but it is a type of bravery to take that which is unpleasant as a means of transforming self and other. When you do that, when you train in that, these two sentiments, then you can make them regular by breathing in. I breathe in that which is unhappy, undesirable. Breathing out, I breathe out that which is beneficial and good. But in our tradition, in Drigung Kagyu, the founder's teacher, Pamodrupa, and the founder, particularly, they have seen maybe in their own time too many people getting carried away by this heroic mode. And so then they say, reckless prayers, which is being reckless about, let all the bad things in the world happen to me. And I said, you may not be ready for that. You may be chewing a bigger piece than you can swallow, and it's going to backfire, and you're going to give up. And it says, don't do that. The Buddha has given us so many ways to be good to yourself and to be good to others. If you're not ready to make that kind of prayer, because how do you know if you're ready? Well, you make that prayer and it comes true. And then you're like, argh. So particularly they say, don't foolishly get into this heroic mode and undermine your own process. Be reasonable. be modest. So how you are reasonable and modest without not doing anything, right? That could be the other extreme. Oh, be reasonable, be modest, so don't do anything, right? That's what the system hopes, right? All of us will do. Well, be reasonable, be, then everything is going to hell in the handbasket. But here, be reasonable, be modest, but doesn't mean don't engage. It means just start with those situations where you are not provoking the negative to happen, and you are not going out of your way to give away good conditions. It's just that karma has ripened in such a way that the good conditions that you have is now going away. Since that's the case, then use that to say, oh, it's going away. I hope it's going to, my neighbor. Good things, okay, not bad things. And then undesirable turning up, you already don't have a choice, right? And say, okay, may my experience of this help prevent other people from having to experience this. So first, just make use of what naturally turns up that is desirable and undesirable. Then, when you get good experience with that, then you can contrive it by saying, breathing in, I breathe in all the sufferings of the world. Breathing out, I'm breathing all my happiness. But if you try to get there too soon, again, you may be living a fantasy and you are running on empty, then compassion fatigue. The way that I think Lojong teachings are given these days, actually, if you listen carefully, what a good teacher is saying is, if you find yourself in a sad state of mind, then there is opportunity to not just be pummeled by it. Now, make some meaningful actions surrounding that. And they're not actually saying, right? Go willy-nilly. Bring suffering into your life. Actually, I really think, most of them are saying, when there's no more choice, or you feel like there's no more choice, suffering has arrived, then, which is really that first line. Train in taking and sending, alternately, mount these two on your breath. That's a more advanced practice. And that's when you have more wisdom, or you feel like you have more understanding, and understanding leading to firmness in resolve, leading to a inner toughness that you're not afraid of upheavals. The three objects, the three poisons, the three roots of virtue. There's no verb in that line. It's just a pithy summary of how you should train. Yeah, and these three lines are the off-cushion training. How you should train is go about recognizing everything as falling into three groups. The three objects, likable objects, not likable objects, neutral objects. Rather than, oh, that's an apple, that's an Android. No, just likable, not likable, neutral. When you kind of walk around just seeing things in terms of these three simple labels, right? It brings into focus how much of this kind of labeling we actually do incessantly, continuously. Likable, not likable, neutral. Then with these three objects, the three poisons enter. Likable, attach. Not likable, averse. Neutral, ignorant dullness. And then the three roots of virtue. Very simple, the opposite of the three poisons. With regard to attachment, non-attachment. With regard to aversion, non-aversion. With regards to confusion, no more confusion. These are the three antidotes. Actually, in terms of words, they're very simple words. But in terms of implementing, it takes practice. So that's one, first line for off cushion. Second line, in all activities, train by means of the words. This is a very practical advice, which means try to memorize the precepts and the vows of training, which is point 6 and point 7. Right? Try to memorize the wording of those instructions. So that as you go about your life, instead, you may think, right? Oh, no, I want a more natural walking around. No, there's never natural. There's already, you're already brainwashed one way or the other. Mostly now we're brainwashed by Amazon. Want to have, don't want to have, don't know yet. Just walking around, And here it's saying, no, walk around with Lojong slogans up in your head. And that's what it means, to train with the words. Training with the words. As for the progressive order of taking, start with oneself. This is an important footnote. Remember taking and sending, right? Taking and sending alternately. So taking what? Taking suffering. What does it mean? As for the progressive order of taking, start with oneself. What does that mean? What do you think? Start small. Okay, how small that it start with yourself? How do you take suffering, start with yourself? What does it mean?
Your own suffering.
And how do you take? Yes. So before taking other people's suffering, you need to recognize and accept with grace. Don't bemoan. Don't like, why me? Yeah. See, actually, this is really important before you go into your Messiah mode. Most of us are only interested in the Messiah mode because there's a dramatic theme song that comes on, not the actual nailing on the cross. Nobody really wants that. Yeah, we just like the theme song. The glamorous part of this Messiah complex. Not the part where nobody wants to be with you, you feel abandoned, all of that. But here it says, start with yourself, meaning develop the ability first. And this is part of training with compassion. Remember, relative bodhicitta is love and compassion training. is very sophisticated, I think, very refined understanding of human psychology. Yes, and Buddhists will say, because of your Buddha nature, we all want to be loving and compassionate, you know. But when you are taking suffering, are you willing and capable of taking your own suffering? I'm not. Because every time it turns up, I'm like, it should not be this week. There's so much going on this week. There's so much going on this year. There's so much going on this life. Why can't it just come next week when it's more convenient? Or next year when I'm in a better position to face this? Or next life when I'm in the Buddha's Pure Land? So we want to delay and postpone suffering. Can we do this next week? Right? And never once, for me at least, when suffering arrives, I go, wow, right on time, yay! You know, like Amazon, it just delivers right on time, even earlier. Only when we, maybe not all the time, only when we are able to experience this in terms of suffering enough times, then we can talk about taking other people's suffering. This line is really important. Start with yourself. So they say, sometimes I've read in some instructions, they say, and they do turn this last one to like a form of practice. So we don't need to be so rigid. It could be turned into a formal type of practice. So what they say is, so if you go back to the first line, train in taking and sending alternately, they say even that you don't need to start with taking other people's suffering. You take your own suffering. So then you say, you train mentally. All my sufferings that is supposed to turn up after dinner tonight, after my date tomorrow, after my promotion next week, may they all come right now. Yeah. Train a willingness, a braveness, a capacity to take on your own future suffering now. Can you do that for your future self? If you cannot do that for your future self, you probably cannot do it for some random person. Even for your future self, you're willing to suffer. Are you? I don't know. I'm not. I'm always like, give it to the future self. Yeah.
Get in shape.
Mhm.
Get under it first.
Yeah. To get in shape. Yeah. Before you go piling on. But getting in shape is not very glamorous. No theme song. But yeah, like, Okay, so now we talk about like taking suffering, right? And again, it sounds like, whoa. Yeah. So let's reduce that to simple terms, practical terms. Am I willing to take on the suffering of others? Do I know if I'm willing to take on the suffering of others? Ask this question differently. Am I willing to be inconvenienced? how often am I willing to be inconvenienced? It's a good gauge for how seriously we are in this desire to take on the suffering of others. There is no more popular desire in modern life, in American life, convenience and the lack of. Entire economies is based on delivering convenience and getting inconvenience out of the way. That's the majority of suffering that is experienced in this country is actually convenience and inconvenience. Don't get me wrong, there are people who are really suffering. But most of us are not in those types of suffering. Most of us are just dodging inconvenience, maximizing convenience.
That's an illusion.
Yeah. Or it's a big price.
Yeah.
So, you know, put it back down to, you know, real world terms, right? So I can say myself, nope, not willing to be inconvenienced. But I can also say that slightly something that has changed is when inconvenience turns up, I complain a little less. Some progress has been made. I complain a little less for a little less long and a little less violently. So protecting, safeguarding the heart. First, the heart, the mind, as it is right now, untrained. How to protect it? By training it. Training it to do what? Be what? Training it to become bodhicitta, rather than the opposite of bodhicitta. My friends call it ego chitta. Ego chitta. Bodhicitta rather than ego chitta. Chitta is mind. Yeah. We are 10 minutes from 3.
Time for picture.
Oh, right. You would think by now there's programs that you can just fake pictures. Like you just like, not even like fake, right? It's just like if I took a panel of this and then I can hit into a program and they go, and then you're all standing. That would be very convenient. In the quest of convenience, someone is developing that app, I'm sure, or that capability of that app. Oh, wait, some young person is going to do it right now. Yeah, and they're like, it's already here. Did you know? Here. Like, what? So I guess photo?
Okay.
Maybe. That's right. do we dedicate the photo sessions or do we not dedicate the photo session? Is that something to dedicate or not?
Right.
So on page 3, we will go from 3 to 4. Keeping in mind that what is said in the longer dedication, some of these things, if you don't skillfully listen to some of the wordings in this longer training, it could miscommunicate. What might it miscommunicate? It might miscommunicate that Lojong of mind training is training to be a doormat. It's not. Try to understand that this is said from a position of strength, real inner strength. And so that even if you are being belittled, bullied, right? It's not like you go, I deserve it. But like, sticks and stones, right? That attitude, like, this is not going to harm me. I'm stronger than this. So that it says, may I be the lowest among all, but not like, may I grovel, but that I'm strong enough so that superficially, even if I look like the lowest, I know who I am. I'm not affected by it. That's how you should hear what is said here. I have a set of teachings on this, probably somewhere in the chat. So there's a YouTube channel where some people have obsessively put everything that I ever said in that channel. So if you look for it, you'll find it. And there's a set of teachings I gave on this. And this is also part of the Lojong tradition, except this is called Lojong in 8 verses. The other one is Lojong in 7 points. Yeah, this is Lojong in 8 verses. This is a slightly earlier text than the Lojong in 7 points. Lojong in 7 points, I think, is written by a disciple of the author of Lojong in 8 verses. By this virtue may I achieve the omniscient state. May all who wander on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies' confusion. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Born may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher with a determination. Accomplish the highest welfare for all sentient beings who surpass even a wish granting jewel. May I train them as supremely precious whenever I associate with others. May I train of myself as the lowest among all and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the great depths of my heart. In all actions may I train to search into. And as soon as an afflictive emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. May I train to cherish beings of bad nature and those oppressed by strong sins and suffering, as if I had found a precious treasure, very difficult to find when others out of jealousy treat me badly. with abuse, slander, and so on. May I train to take on all loss and offer victory to them when one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly. May I train to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, may I train to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. May I train to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the eight worldly conceptions, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. Yes. Photo, right? Tan 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 tan.
Great. Great.
Yeah, good. Dun, 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 dun.
Good.
Mhm.
What do you want to do?
Oh, hook. Remember?
Yeah.
Hook. Dun, 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 dun.